Um, okay, so let me just introduce some of why, I've taken the step of calling this meeting what it's about, where I come from intellectually, and then we can have Q&A and all that, and then the second part, the most important bit, will be my proposal for this European Peace Agency, which is the sort of theme for today. I just want to set the scene, why we're here, what is the Lib Dem Philosophy Forum, how did it come about, and then, as I say, the second bit will be on the European Peace Agency. So anyway, my introduction is that I was born in the 1950s in Canada, actually, in Montreal. I'm a Canadian passport holder, and I was brought up to think the Liberal Party were the sort of progressive, normal, decent, centre-left governing party, Trudeau and co. And I later lived back in Canada for 4 years in my 20s, and I'm a sort of Canadian Liberal, but just ended up in Europe, shocked at what's happening to Canada, the attacks from America and Russia and all the rest of it. I was born in Westmount, which is where Justin Trudeau was born, by the way. So we're sort of brothers in arms. I was brought up, however, mostly in Brighton, in Sussex. And I went to the University of Bristol. I studied classics at school. I got into philosophy, studied philosophy at the University of Bristol. Found it very badly taught. So I did that 70s thing of resigning and going off to find enlightenment. Went back to Canada and studied privately for 4 years and worked in a Canadian Veterans Hospital in Calgary, which really made my thinking about peace. I was nursing old soldiers who'd fought in the 2 world wars, Canadian Army. Amazing people. And I had to put them in body bags when they died, having told me their life stories. That was very formative in my early 20s. I came back to Europe determined to stop World War III. They told me in the hospital, these old soldiers, Thomas, you're wasted here. Go back to Europe and stop World War III. So I came to London. I did a second degree in history, modern world history, from 85 to 86, specialising on, everything I could. I was like a ridiculously keen, mature student. And I read political philosophy and modern history. And my mother was a sort of intellectual Marxist. So for her, Das Kapital was the Bible. She was a post-Christian. She was a Christian still, but she just thought we had to apply Christianity politically. When I was at the University of London reading Russian history, I read Marxism, etc., etc. I said, look, Mum, Marx must have got stuff wrong because we got Stalinism, we got the horrors of the Gulag and all that stuff. And so I've never regarded myself as a Marxist. On the contrary, I'm a liberal Democrat, but I'm a Marxologist. I know I'm doing a commentary on Das Kapital. I know the ins and outs of the extreme left and don't agree with it. And I think I know where it went wrong. But I respect Marx as an intellectual. He was a polymath, a great thinker. I joined the Liberal Party back in London, actually, back in the day. And then I followed it through to the Lib Dem alliance with the Social Democrats, which became the Lib Dem founding. And I was doing... So I was also a World Federalist. For those of you that know the Federalist tradition, I know Chris Platts is quite keen on that. But I felt pragmatic. I was on the board of the World Federalists in Britain. But I felt that we can't go immediately for World Federalism. Let's go for Europe first. So I supported the European Union for those reasons. I thought, this is great. At least these countries aren't going to kill each other anymore. And there was a thing called the Federal Trust for Education and Research. I used to go to their meetings in Queen Anne's Gate in London. And I felt, I was very pro-EU, pro-Commonwealth as a Canadian, pro-UN, used to go to UNA meetings. And anyway, I graduated and then started a PhD at the University of London, specialising in the history of the search for peace from 1945 to 2001. It took me years, like 10 years plus, because I was living it. I was going to international conferences all over the show, And in 1990, I went to Moscow. I was elected coordinator of Philosophers for Peace globally, meeting, people that are famous, that you read about in books. I was just a little kid in my late 20s, early 30s, and they trusted me with this mission, which I still hold that title. And I then set up the International Institute of Peace Studies and Global Philosophy at the University of London in 91. I was now working on a project. I was paid by a Quaker trust, actually, to get a Peace Studies Institute at the University of London going. And I thought this is obvious. That's what we need. I'm a great fan of research into peace. And I was amazed at the opposition to this that came from right-wing sources, Tory party. These are the days of Green and Common and, the anti-peace lobby. And so, hey, I took it on the chin and carried on. So then I thought, well, how are we going to do this? Let's meet in Parliament. I discovered the University of London was created by Act of Parliament back in the day, in the sort of 1900s, by Lord Haldane. Some of you may have heard, one of the great liberal peers. And I thought, well, what we need to do, if we're going to have a National Institute of Peace in London, we need to get an Act of Parliament for this. This is something for all people, not just parties. So I organised a series of meetings in Parliament in the House of Lords in London with sponsorship from various lords, mostly Lord Ennals, who was a good friend of mine. He was the brother of the guy that founded Amnesty International, Martin Ennals, who I knew. Lord Ennals had been a sort of old school Labour guy who'd known Harold Wilson, and he was just old school, kind of centre-left Labour, great guy. And then I got support from some Liberals as well, who sponsored these meetings, which the idea was to get the great and the good together in Parliament and discuss peace and ethics. And I thought, well, then we'll have a peace institute in London, like in Stockholm, like any civilized city, right? Meanwhile, my work was taking me to 35 countries around the world. I travelled everywhere from Russia to America to, every European country pretty much. I didn't get to Portugal. It's one of my regrets. Not yet. All over the Balkans and so on. And I finally finished the PhD in 2008. I mean, you can see how long it took. But it was worth it. And it was epic. I did far too much work. When I look at Marx's PhD, by comparison, it was like 30 pages. And he didn't even go to a viva. It's shocking. Mine was like, 500 pages. And I had a terrifying viva to sit. But anyway, then I trained as a school teacher. I thought, this is all very well, the highfalutin academic stuff, but what about the kids? For 10 years, I worked in the British education system as head of philosophy and religious studies. And I taught citizenship studies, which was an attempt to get political thought into secondary schools in the UK, which I supported and I trained to do. And then I set up, I was living in Wales by then, and I set up the Lib Dem philosophy group with my then MP, who was the head of the Lib Dems in Wales, called Lembit Opik, whose dad had been a great astronomer in Northern Ireland. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to Lembit. He went off and fell in love with a Romanian. That's the last I heard from him. And I think it didn't sit very well with some of the puritanical members. I don't know what happened, but he was kind of disgraced and he dropped out of running. But, I respect him. He was a great guy. And then I ended up living in Scotland for 7 years in a castle, still running my Peace Institute that I'd set up at the University of London in philosophy and peace. And then Brexit happened. I was utterly disgusted at Brexit. I thought this is the most backwards, stupid thing the British people have ever done. I felt this is just mad. It's everything I oppose. And in response, I moved to France because I love French culture. My mother was a Francophile, a French teacher, a great fan of French literature and philosophy. And so I bought a house in the middle of France in La Creuse, where I live now. And I've been opposing Brexit with everything I've got ever since. Got active in the local Lib Dems here in France. I'm now on the committee. Simon's our chair. And And then, so I've been watching Brexit in micro detail as a scholar of political science. I kind of worked out where it's come from. I'm a great opponent of the extreme right in Russia that have taken power in the form of Putinism. I've given talks about that, and also that have now planted Trump into the White House. I regard Trump as an asset of Putin. There's no doubt about that. And I've been, tuning into all the advanced scholarship, especially Tim Snyder, great thinker in America. He's like the equivalent of me in the States. And looking at these racists that have come out of South Africa, like Elon Musk, I mean, they all trumpet this illiberalism as if it's some kind of new religion. To bash liberals is a new sport in American and right-wing and Russian circles. And I've seen all this all over the internet for the last 5 years. And I just felt enough is enough. We've got to revive some actual intelligent thinking about what liberal democracy actually stands for. What are we protecting? Why are we protecting Ukraine? Why do they deserve help? Why do people under attack deserve our support? So, I feel it's time to put some of the years of training I've done as a thinker to practice. And so that's why I thought, let's revive the Lib Dem Philosophy Forum. Let's have a termly meeting. Let's invite the great and the good. If I can get Tim Snyder to come and talk next term, I will. Or if you've got other names. And then, and let's oppose intellectually. So this to me is what St. Paul said. We're not fighting a normal kind of war here. Our opponents are principalities and powers of darkness. As far as I'm concerned, Brexit was epic. And what we're seeing Trump doing, playing games with European destiny, to me these are powers of darkness that need opposing intellectually. Other people are fighting on the battlefields. I don't do that. I'm a philosopher. But, I think we need to get our act together and think through from first principles how we can oppose this right-wing hate speech that's creeping into European countries. Most of it sponsored by Russia, Putin, and now Trump, who's issued this new security doctrine that Europe's going to the dogs. It's got too many immigrants, Well, we like our multiculturalism in Europe. That's where I'm coming from, and our diversity and our, so we need to oppose all that stuff. So that anyway, and then the European Peace Agency project has arisen out of all those years of work. But I'll stop there. That's my sort of introduction, kind of who I am, what we're doing. And any questions, comments, anything, feel free to feedback. Yeah, Wiebke, go for it. You'll have to unmute.
Yeah. Thanks. Thank you also for letting me know about the Federal Trust. I thought that was one nation Tory assembly.
No, not at all. No, no.
Oh, okay. So I've learned something about that. Um, just I was raised. I was born and raised in Germany and lived, I think, most of my life on the continent. Um, just to give you a little idea of where I'm coming from
Okay.
in terms of Lib Dems.
Yeah.
Um, I think this might be a little bit German, a German idea, but liberalism in Germany, or the idea of liberal liberal ideas, they come from the Enlightenment, the
Oh,
Age of Enlightenment,
yeah.
and then developed over the 19th century, just sort of into something, just sort of what eventually, I think, up into the 80s of the last century, just formed also in a political way a party called the Freie Demokraten in Germany. But
Yeah.
this is past now because, for instance, there are liberals on the continent who just do not think in these terms you described, but often more in a neoliberal sense, means
Mm.
economical liberal, neoliberal sense, which might be also libertine, and that's a problem. But coming from enlightenment, and the last words you said, that how can we reassure that the liberal idea lives on is um, we have to go back to the ideas of enlightenment.
Yeah.
We have to come back to this. And enlightenment means information, education, seeking, just seeking, have a good view on reality and um, seek to know as much as you can know about the world, just sort of, and this has to be spread. So if at the age of enlightenment, the people could write to each other and build a network of people who would just help themselves with their knowledge, pass on knowledge from one to the other.
Mm.
I think we can do this as well.
Well, thank you very much. No, I agree 100%. And the Enlightenment, yeah, I mean, I always trace my political philosophy back to my studies of Kant, who dreamed of a Europe of federal nations in peace with some kind of automatic mediation in terms of war. I mean, I'm a kind of Kantian philosophically, and I was trained in that. And that's why I'm so disgusted at what's happened in America. The right wing have forgotten that America was built on liberal Enlightenment values. Thomas Jefferson is one of my heroes. Um, so yes, thank you very much. That's what the Lib Dem Philosophy Forum is about, and I want to make contact with liberal Democrat philosophers all over the continent and further afield about neoliberalism. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. I mean, if somebody got the word wrong, these people that call themselves neoliberals, exposed by the shock doctrine, that extraordinary study of neoliberalism in action. I mean, they're kind of extreme Thatcherites, deregulate everything. Those are not what I call liberals. They don't share the values of the Liberal Democrat Party, or the heritage of the Enlightenment that I stand for and that I believe in. So I think and if they want to come, they're welcome to come. If they're members of a genuine liberal party, we can have that debate. I mean, I do believe in a free market economy as well as a social democratic economy running parallel. But I don't believe in ruthless free marketism as an ideology, which is what Thatcherism promoted and these so-called neoliberals do. But anyway, we can come back to that. Let's have a couple of new introductions. Aline, you joined us halfway through. That was a sort of introduction thing. Do you want to just introduce yourself? Hello, welcome. Tell us where you are.
Oh, yeah. Wait a minute. Oh,
Yeah.
we got it?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah,
Yeah,
where are you calling from?
Well, first of all, my name isn't Aline.
Ah,
That's my wife's name.
okay.
I'm Ferguson Evans. I belong to the Lib Dems here in France.
Okay.
And I live in Toulouse. I don't know Europe very well, if you like, because I've lived mainly in Asia during my adult life,
Ah,
including 21 years in Japan.
oh, wow.
And so I'm a translator of Japanese. I have been a translator of Japanese and so on.
How interesting.
A small advertisement. I've just written a book which is published by Routledge on Japan and the rise of China, which, of course, to some extent is related because the Japanese are suffering from the same problem now as Europe. You have the rise of the Sanseitou, which is a far right party.
Is it?
Yeah. And so it is influencing the long-standing LDP, Liberal Democratic Party, which has ruled Japan for most of the time since the last war.
They're still in power, aren't they? I mean, the Liberal Democrats.
Sorry?
They're in power in Japan now, aren't they? The Liberal Democrats.
Oh, yes. This is with a small party called Ishinokai, which is sometimes translated as the Japan Innovation Party. And they are just going to pass a budget, which seems to be going ahead, but supplementary budget. But it's a bit wobbly because it's just a matter of a few seats in
Ah,
both houses as to whether LDP can hold its ground
interesting.
at the moment.
Okay.
But anyway,
And
um,
do you know much about the Japanese philosophy, where the Liberal Democrats of Japan stand intellectually? Have they a interesting tradition? Do you want to? Are they members of the the Liberal International, that Japanese party? Do you know?
oh no, no, Liberal Democrats are conservatives.
In Japan's terms.
In everybody's terms,
Oh, okay.
they're right wing.
Like the Australian Liberals, they call themselves Liberals,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
they're
yeah. It's not. It's like the Liberals you were talking about earlier.
okay. They've strayed from the fold. Oh
You know,
dear.
I mean, right at this moment, I mean, they're pretty ruthless.
Ah,
Right at this moment, there's a new debate going on about. You see, there is a term karoshi, means death through overwork. Mm.
ah.
And in the last decade, Japan suffered a lot from that.
People working
Um,
themselves to death.
yeah, so they changed the law. But now the Liberal Democrats are sort of redefining this by redefining what work is. In other words, if it's not work and the person stays at the office, it is not counted as work. You know, I mean, so long hours are again being forced upon a lot of
Gosh,
the Japanese working population with no recourse.
gosh. Okay.
That's the
Well,
kind
look,
of party it is.
I appreciate,
Um,
I appreciate that. I mean, sorry, it's Ferguson, isn't it?
yes,
Your proper name. Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's move on and welcome Claire because you've just joined us too. This is just a sort of introductory thing. I'm going to give a little talk about the European Peace Agency in a minute. But welcome,
Okay,
Claire. Where are you
thank
joining
you.
us from?
I'm in Delhi right now.
Oh, you got to India.
Yes,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
so it happened.
Okay.
Um, but I'm a little confused because I thought this started at 11 my time. It seems to have started earlier, half an hour earlier or something. Did I miss
No,
an
we
email?
started pretty much on time. I was 4 minutes late. But you
Okay,
didn't miss much. I did an introductory go round and just
okay,
introduced my work. You can see the catch up. We
okay.
But tell us about you because I didn't mention the arts. Tell us about the importance of the arts for peace and why that's part of Europe's wonderful cultural heritage we're trying to protect.
Yes.
Yeah.
Um, mm, Gosh, that's such a big subject.
Well, just
I
start
mean,
by
I'm an
introducing
artist. I'll
yourself.
just
Yeah.
introduce myself.
Yeah.
I'm an
That's.
artist and a musician, and I research experientially as well as academically consciousness. And so I'm very interested, in a way, for the sake of efficiency as well as the magic of it, to work with our consciousness with others and see what we can better understand about ourselves, um, because it filters into all our behaviors, our consciousness, in my opinion. So, and I care very much that we come to peace. And I'm kind of shocked being here in Delhi. It's you kind of don't even want to breathe because the air pollution is really horrendous. And I'm going to Ahmedabad tomorrow, and it's about 3 times worse.
Oh no.
So it's shocking,
Oh,
and the plastic litter is extreme. So that's been a reminder of, we talk. I'm in lots of situations where we talk about climate crisis. We don't talk about pollution. We talk about climate crisis, and to actually have to breathe it in and walk through it is a very different. It's tragic. It's really a horrible feeling of a really deep sadness in such a magical place. So it's
you've
mystical.
been to India before, have you, Claire?
I have, but I was in my 20s, so it was literally 40 years ago.
Okay.
And the thing that stands out to me that's different, the magic's still here, but I don't recall having any fear of breathing when I was here in my 20s.
That's quite
I don't think
extreme.
that was a thing then.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Okay. Well, we'll come back to you. Well, this is just a sort of checking in because you were late, so we didn't get the
Thank you.
introductions. This is really comments on what I was saying. Sean, you got your hand up. Did you have any feedback or comments?
Yes, yeah, Thomas, thanks. I just maybe you can just explain a little bit more. How do we differentiate the idea of liberal philosophy, or democrat, if the right wing have taken that in some countries, like in Japan, as the last speaker was saying, or in Australia, people who call themselves liberal Democrats
Mm.
are much more right than what we'd understand. So I'm just wondering, what do you think? How do we differentiate ourselves in that
Yeah,
sense?
that's a great question. I mean, I'm I was brought up in a left wing family. We used to vote Labour. I told you my mother was a Marxist. I wasn't, but to me, I actually also joined the Social Democrats briefly, looking for a home. And then when they merged and became the Lib Dems, I thought, great, that's fantastic. So to me, the Liberal Democrat Party, this is the philosophy forum for it, is a merger of two streams. It's a Liberal Party, which goes right back to Gladstone and Jeremy Bentham and the 19th century intellectuals who brought us the Great Reform Act, who opposed slavery, who were supported by the Romantic poets like Shelley and Byron, which is where I come from. I'm a poet. Plus the social democratic tradition, and that's why we support a welfare state. I mean, it was Beveridge, the great Liberal Party figure, friend of Churchill, that brought us the welfare state with his fantastic report, full employment in a free society. So, I mean, the welfare state was, the Liberal Party was always the progressive left wing of British politics. And in fact, what happened, and this is a historical fact, that the Tory party supported the creation of the Labour Party by giving it money when it was a small little group of working class chaps wanting, a Labour Party. They said, if we support this party and bring it on, we'll smash the genuine opposition, which is the Liberals. We'll prevent them ever getting to power. So I think, as for what we do about people that use neoliberalism as a sort of mastiff, I think we just have to take them on intellectually, and I'm very happy to do that, and teach them about the real history of liberalism in Britain and France, because in France as well, we can look at the great liberal intellectuals of the 19th century. I'm a great fan of Victor Hugo and that liberal romantic tradition that existed. I think more information, more knowledge, and I think it was Claire said, more education is the key here. The people like the people that run X and post all their hate speech on there, they're very badly educated. I'm sorry to have to say that. And so I think our job, our mission as a Lib Dem philosophy group is just to kind of keep at the education. It should be in. And in Ireland, Sean, can I just ask one thing? I mean, I believe I'm right in saying Fianna Fáil is your current governing party, is it?
It is, yes, would be the main party,
Yeah.
yes.
Now, I've been reading actually today, because I was revisiting the Good Friday Agreement in one of the books I published, because I'm a polymathic author, is called The Little Book of Peace Declarations. And it's 4 volumes, and it's got 1,000 peace declarations, including the Good Friday Agreement.
Oh, good, yeah.
So I was revisiting Irish politics, and the Fianna Fáil was set up by de Valera after that tragic civil war that broke out in Ireland, when good people on both sides sort of died. And I believe it means the soldiers of destiny, doesn't it? The name Fianna Fáil.
It does, and certainly I think it may be a little a little bit to the right, but it certainly would consider itself a liberal democratic party in the general sense of
Yeah.
European history. We kind of, I mean, we won't admit it, maybe, but we're lucky to have a party like that in power. They're not perfect by any means, but
No.
their soul is in the right place, let's say.
I think so. Yeah, I was looking back at their history, and also the chap you like, Frank Aiken. I believe he was part of it, wasn't he? And he was a proper intellectual, I would say, in that lineage of Fianna Fáil, which I think is an important voice for peace. Sorry, you're muted, Sean. You'll have to. He didn't Frank do a lot for international peace, the UN, and all that stuff.
He just happened to be at the UN at a critical time of the first non-proliferation treaty. So he made a major contribution to that because he was able to get the Russians and the Americans to come together. So
To sign a no more nuclear weapons, the first treaty, wasn't it?
yes, the first treaty. Yeah, the first,
We need him back now because
yeah.
they're going mad again. Okay, Wiebke, let's hear from you, and then we'll move on. I want to say about the European Peace Agency. It's so exciting. Wiebke.
Okay, I try to keep it short. Liberal is, I think it's a wider, it's a wider term than just a party term.
Yes.
So it's a very, very important thing because we also connect it to democracy. So we always talk in a sense, just of liberal democracies in the West. And I think if we keep this in mind, or something that's really important to think about, that central to what's central to a democracy is this freedom and equality. So these are these things, and I think they are not only central for liberal parties, but they should be central for everybody. But I think we have, as a liberal party or as a liberal force, I think we have a duty also to always stress this out. That was one thing, and then I wanted to pick up very, very briefly on something what Claire said about just sort of this populism at the moment being an inner state of mind as well. So if you go back to Trump, just sort of Trump is at the wrong place, because I think he brings this inner chaos he has about himself to the outside and brings chaos to everybody else, not only his immediate environment or whatever. And this I think this has to be fought as well. And I think we have to also keep in mind that this might be a psychological condition, which is brought on, just sort of to all mankind almost. And that's all what I wanted to comment on.
No, thank you very much. They're both very important points, and we should bear them in mind as we proceed, because I just want to make a philosophical point about Liber. Liber was a god of ancient Rome who stood for freedom. He was the god of the working classes, and he had his own temple, and he had one day a year when everyone got free wine. And he was equated to Dionysus, who's one of my favourite gods. I'm a classicist, don't forget. So Liber is the god of the people, the ordinary people, and it's their freedom to be and do their stuff. That's so important. But about freedom, as a philosopher, I would say that, you see, the people, the extreme right, the Elon Musk's type, they invoke freedom. They're attacking Europe now. Free speech, free everything, free. Freedom should be balanced by love, in my opinion, as a philosopher. So we all love freedom, but up to certain limits. I shouldn't be free to harm you, to hurt you, to defame you, to attack you. So freedom has to be defended by love, actually, which is the best word I can think of for it. And that is kind of where the great philosophies have got to with this, both in Christian, Islamic, Jewish, all great philosophers, Aristotle, they say freedom, yes, but tempered by love. And that's, I think, the first lesson I would give to these hard right, crazy lunatics who've forgotten that lesson. They think freedom means freedom to destroy, freedom to defame, freedom to slap down, anyone we don't agree with, freedom to bomb Venezuela, or freedom to do, wars whenever we want. So that's just a little response there.
Can I just make a comment though, Thomas?
Yeah.
Even if I might agree with you, I'm concerned about how we language and other people If we want peace, that's not how I don't think that's how it works. Just, you know what I mean?
Okay. Well,
mean, calling
I hear what
people-
you're saying.
Yeah, I forget exactly the word you use, but lunatics. You know.
Yeah. No, I don't want to
It's like-
insult the moon. I love the moon, the Luna. So that's an insult to the moon. No, thank you so much, Claire, for pointing that out. I'll try and watch my language. Right. Okay. Let me move on then to the business at hand. Wibke, is it urgent? No, you've lost your hand. Good.
Just one very quick one about freedom. So in Germany, there's a saying, so almost every child learns it, I think. Freedom goes only that far, personal freedom, individual freedom goes only that far as till someone else's freedom is curtailed. So this is a little bit away from love. I like the love aspect in this as well, but it runs parallel to your love aspect, I think.
Yeah, which goes back to Claire's point about the other. We shouldn't be free to hurt, insult, damage the other, but we are free to protect ourselves from them if they're hurting us. So, these are important points. Thank you, and that leads me to the main substance of today's event. Really, I want to talk about this project called the European Peace Agency. Now, I'm hoping most of you have seen the text and had time to at least read it or acquaint yourselves with it. I'll try and summarize it if not. So the idea of the European Peace Agency. So why do we need such a thing? Firstly, well, I think we need it because Europe is struggling with violence and wars on our borders and on our eastern front, particularly Ukraine, Russia have been at it. I saw that coming back in 2008 when I travelled through the Balkans. I had this download, this intuition that there would be a war on that frontier because that was the year that Russia threatened to cut off Ukraine's oil supply unless they paid lots of dosh. And I thought, this is not good. So coming back by train through the Balkans up to Venice, I had this idea, why doesn't the European Union create a mediation service for conflicts on its frontiers? Otherwise, it'll be a meltdown and millions of immigrants are going to flood into Europe and that's the end of the European Union. So I packaged it as what I call the European Union Mediation Service. And I sent it to all the political leaders in the UK and the European Union. And, I got sort of everyone saying, what a great idea, but nobody actually helping it go anywhere. And I've then watched in horror as, lo and behold, wars break out on the frontiers, Ukraine, Russia, horrendous, and in the Middle East, in the Mediterranean region, North Africa, Gaza, Israel, at it this whole time. And I'm thinking, this should be stopped. We need an agency that would actively mediate and resolve these conflicts. So, and then I thought, well, I've kept trying to do it with the European Union, but although they got the Nobel Peace Prize, I don't think they've earned it. They've not actually got it together. They haven't created a mediation service, which to me is so obvious. They should have done this 15 years ago, right? And then I discovered a few months ago the European Space Agency, and I was blown away. I discovered it because some European space scientists have just mapped the galaxy. They've created a 3D map of the galaxy. They have a telescope at the Lagrange point on the dark side of the Earth, away from the sun. It's always pitch black night there. And they have one of the most powerful telescopes in the world up there all the time, mapping the galaxy. And they've just been mapping all the places where stars are formed. And I was blown away. Lagrange, by the way, was a famous French mathematician, like Cedric Villani, for those that know of him. And I was thinking, I love it. I love the European Space Agency. And Britain is still a member. Don't tell Reform or that Farage chap, because it's one thing that we haven't left. And it is an amazing thing, the European Space Agency. It has a budget of £7 billion a year. It does advanced science. It has the top astronomers and space scientists of every European country as members and participants. It's good for their economies. it's doing sort of bilateral agreements with the Chinese Space Agency and the Japanese. Our friend Ferguson will be interested in that. And, you know, it's recognised as a good thing. It's science, right? And that's to the advantage of everybody. It's worth $7 billion a year. So what I thought when I saw this, I thought, hey, peace is surely as important to us as a continent and as human beings and as a world as much as space science. Much as I love space, I want to be the first guy up there walking on Mars, you know. But if we don't get peace on this planet, all that stuff is down the drain. If we blow up this world with third world nuclear war, space science stops on this planet for, you know, probably forever. At least a few billion years. We'd have to evolve again from slime molds. So I'm arguing in the document that I've circulated that the European peoples, nations, cultures, everything from, you know, everyone that's part of the European Space Agency should create a new thing called the European Peace Agency, modelled on the European Space Agency. And it would be staffed by technical experts. You see, in my PhD, I discovered there's a whole thing developed in the last 50 years. Expertise in mediation, in conflict resolution, in conflict analysis. There was a chap called, you know, John Groom, ran a centre at the University of Kent. There's a tremendous expertise has been developed, and these guys are real experts. Every European country has them. In Norway, in Sweden. They have centres, departments for peace research in Oslo, in Stockholm, etc., in Tromsø up north. And so the European Peace Agency would be staffed by these guys who've studied in detail, for instance, how you get successful peace negotiations. How do you get ceasefire agreements? Who monitors them? Who reports on whether they're successful? There are people writing PhDs on all this stuff and who are actually doing it in the field. They're working for the UN, they're working for the European Union, they're working as diplomats, they're working with the French Foreign Ministry, etc. Well, let the best of them work for the European Peace Agency. So it would have a budget of $7 billion a year, and it would be, I'm proposing it should be based in a friendly, neutral European country, namely Ireland. I've talked about this, thought about it. I think, you know, of course, I'm Mr. London Peace Studies. I'd like it in London, but I think London is too heavily involved in all the wars. It's not going to happen. I think it'd be much better it's in Dublin, which is you see, Ireland is, in its constitution, and Sean can tell us about this, it has a clause that it can't get involved in foreign wars. It's declared itself neutral, and it has a duty to mediate wars in its constitution. So I think that's a really good place for it. What strategies, then, can we use to advance it? We can talk about that. So that's the document I wrote. And the other thing to say is that I think it's appropriate to work on this project with the Liberal International, the Liberal Democrats in Europe, because from what I know, and I'm, you know, not an expert in all the Liberal parties in Europe, but I think that this idea would go down well. And I think that we could get this adopted as a project, both in their own national parliaments, they can discuss it. But then it would have to be, so the way the European Space Agency works is it has its own founding treaty. It's not a member of anything else. It's its own thing, the European Space Agency. Every member party, every member government contributes a certain proportionate share of its budget. Now, 7 billion sounds like a lot, but compared to the UK spends on defence £80 billion a year. Just one country, right? The sum total of what the European countries as a whole have spent since the Ukraine invasion by Russia is over $1 trillion. We're pouring money into a black hole, which is, I'm not against armed forces. I'm not saying, you know, let's all just be hippies together and try peace and love on them. No, but I am saying that what we need is, as well as a military defense shield, Europe also should get its act together and have a peace intelligence offering. So it's a sort of two-track diplomacy. And I don't, I'm an expert in Slavic, East European, Russian history. It's not impossible to negotiate a mediation between the Ukrainians and Russians. It's very doable. But we have to get the right people, the right experts, the right scholars to work on this. And that's what the European Peace Agency is for. The same with the people of Israel and Palestine. We've just been joined by Mazin Kumsier from Bethlehem, I believe, who's one of Palestine's leading scholars of peace. Do you want to introduce yourself, Mazin? Hello. Greetings.
Thank you. Sorry about not coming in time. I had another conference I was attending.
Did you get the Nobel Peace Prize? I know your name was put forward.
No, God forbid, no.
Oh dear.
I don't want that kind of prize. They give
it for you.
Like Henry Kissinger and Shimon Peres and Barack Obama, all war criminals, that's who they give it to. So I don't want that company.
Frederick Heffermehl, a Norwegian friend of mine, has written a book about how the current Nobel Peace Prize people have broken away from the founding treaty. It was designed to go to peace activists like us, but now they give it to politicians, which is just wrong. So,
right.
But anyway,
yes, yeah.
So just tell them briefly about what you do. What's your Centre for Biodiversity, Mazin?
What I do, I am a full-time volunteer, 7 days a week, 15 hours a day. I don't take vacations. I volunteer here at the Palestine Institute for Biodiversity and Sustainability, which is an institute concerned about the future of this planet and the people on this planet. So we work very hard on these areas. I am a writer and activist, and both on the streets and in the cyberspace. And what can I tell you more? I guess I'm also a farmer. I grow vegetables and pick olives and things like that.
And you survive. That's the most important thing. Thank you for joining us. So I was saying before you joined that we're just talking about the European Peace Agency, a document I think I sent you. Hope you've had time to look at it.
Yeah.
That, the European Peace Agency would be available for resolving conflicts firstly in regions on the borders of Europe, so like Ukraine, Russia, but also the whole Mediterranean Sea. That is our duty to solve these problems, and that means all the North African stuff, Libya, the meltdowns going on there, and Israel and Palestine, it's our karmic duty to solve that, really, because some of you may know the word Palestine comes from the Philistines, and the Philistines were kind of related to the Mycenaean Greeks. They used the pottery of the ancient Greeks. Looks like the original Philistines were migrants from the Aegean, from Mycenaean Greece.
I'm sorry, Thomas. Let me correct you on
Okay,
this.
you can correct me.
The Philistines are a tribe of Canaanites. They have nothing to do with the Aegean or with Greek. Their religion, their language, their philosophy, their genetics is all Canaanitic, Aramaic. They have this is a kind of one of those myths that was disseminated by the Zionists to make it look like the word Philistine comes somehow from outside of the region of Canaan.
Well, what about the pottery, though? Isn't that a fact?
The pottery. There's not one shred of pottery that shows any Greek heritage. All the pottery of the Philistines, as the pottery of the Nabatean and the Phoenician Canaanites, it's all Canaanitic pottery.
Okay. Well, I stand corrected. However, I will get back to you on that because I have sources that say differently, and we can have that argument outside of here. But the point, there was a famous Irish archaeologist who went and discovered all that stuff. He was very important Irish chap. But anyway, the point I was simply making is that the conflicts in that part of the Middle East, the Near East, we can call it, they should have been solved decades ago. They should never have erupted. It was a total mistake by the British mandate. I've been listening to Palestinian scholars online who've written about the revolt against the British in 1936 to 39. There's a new movie coming out about all that. It's a scandal that it's got this far. And, the European Peace Agency on its desk, the day we get it set up, will have that conflict to solve. It'll have the Ukraine-Russia conflict. But also in Africa, it'll have the Sudan conflict, which is a disgrace to humanity. And again, it's British European imperialism that's sort of caused a lot of this stuff. So we need to, I think, have an agency that can help facilitate the resolution of these problems. And for those that don't know, the Sudan thing is partly traceable to Russia's influence, because Putin and that kind of mercenary group, the Wagner group that was going around Africa, are the people that funded the Rapid Reaction Force, which now attacked the legitimate government of Sudan and have created all this trouble. So, it's Russia's chaos that has been exported to the Sudan, and the results are horrendous. We now have a moral duty, I think, to do our best to clear all that up. And that's why we need a European Peace Agency. Wiebke, sorry, you've been very patient. Your hand is free floating there. Do have your thing.
Yes, I have a couple of questions. What would be what would be the exact function of such a thing? What would be the scope to help mediate in between war countries? What would they do research? That's one thing. The other thing is, are you thinking of some, I would say, English-speaking sort of centered organization, or just sort of, or wouldn't that be just sort of an idea to make this more in the center of Europe? Just Ireland is very much at the rim of Europe. Not that I'm totally against this, but if you want Ireland, I would place it into Belfast rather than into Dublin. Just sort of. But other than that, if you want more traditional, I would just sort of investigate if we could do this in Denmark maybe, or in the Scandinavian countries, to set it up, because there are some. The organization I work with is to sort of follow up on the individual members of ALDE. We set up in Denmark because it was really easy to set up an NGO there, for instance. Or you could be just very sort of taking into account that there are also other languages, 24 in the European Union, official languages, to go further east, just sort of, in my wildest dreams, it would be in Chisinau, just in Moldova,
Sure.
Or to set it up.
Okay, so can I answer those two questions? They're very important. What would it do? Well, the first thing is you do need to read the document, because it explains all that in there. Have you had a copy of it? Did Chris send it to you, Wiebke?
I think there was a link, and I clicked the link, and I tried to read as much as I could.
Okay. Well, I'll send you the PDF of the actual document. So it goes into all that. What would it do? And it would do everything peace connected. So it would do, mediation. It would do conflict resolution. It would do conflict analysis. And yes, it would have a very important research wing. And I've listed in that document the sort of 25 areas that it would be researching. Everything from sort of ethnic conflict, religious conflict, economic conflict, territorial conflict, boundary disputes, mediation processes, all the stuff that we call peace and conflict research. And it's a huge field. and very few people really know about it, and it's there. For instance, the Swiss government in Bern has a think tank which does all this stuff, and the Swiss Foreign Ministry funds a mediation service through that. And Switzerland is part of the European Space Agency, so it would be part of this project. As for location, yes, I mean, it could be in Switzerland, it could be anywhere. I think the reason Ireland is quite a good idea is because, and by the way, no, it wouldn't just be English speaking, of course not. It would be multilingual. It would have a very important part of its work would be a translation team. One of the things it would have would be translation to all, not just European languages, but African and Arabic and you name it, Hebrew, everything. And it would be available, that research team and the translation team, for specific conflict mediation initiatives. I think English would be the kind of one of the working scientific languages. I've proposed that French should be the other, because those are the two kind of normally accepted international languages in the UN system. But it would be available in all the other things. Why shouldn't it be in, France, Paris? No, they have the headquarters of the European Space Agency in Paris already. They don't need this. The reason I think Ireland is a good choice, because it's not in NATO. And I think NATO membership brings with it certain sort of blinkers, and I think the fact that Ireland's outside of NATO and has this thing in its constitution gives a certain independence of movement, which Denmark, Norway, some of these other NATO countries wouldn't have. But maybe, Sean, would you like to just talk to that point? Just tell us, what is this constitutional thing in Ireland about peace?
Yes, Thomas, thanks. But just generally, I think your idea of this European peace agency, it's very much, it should be the central of liberal democracy, of those ideas. It's a very good idea to match up liberal parties around Europe who are interested in the possibility of peace. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea. And thanks for, I mean, I have the outline here. Just getting back to the Irish government, it will be for the 6 months from July next year, be president of the European Union. They will take over the presidency of the European Union, and as part of that procedure, they've asked for ideas about what they should promote during their presidency. So we're making the submission. The Irish peace groups have taken Thomas's European Peace Agency and the whole 12 pages, and we're making that, and we have made it as a submission to the Irish government that could be one idea they could promote. Now, they may not do it, but at least it's going to be on the table somewhere in the government bureaucracy when they're looking at their presidency from July 26 on for 6 months. And I'm just wondering if people from other countries could maybe make a submission to their own government to back that idea. European bureaucracy, I don't know how complicated it's going to be to get this established. But I mean, if we don't try, it won't be done. And it doesn't have to be in Dublin. We are outside NATO, and we do have a constitutional commitment to peace, which is very unusual. It goes right back. It's Article 29 of the Irish Constitution, which commits the government and the Irish people to the peaceful resolution of international conflicts by arbitration, negotiation, and all that sort of, there's three separate articles in it. So it's it's one that some of our politicians kind of would like to ignore more than, because there is a movement in Ireland to join NATO as well, unfortunately, but it's only a small movement at the moment. So I'm just thinking that this will give us a boost. We will follow it up. Hopefully we'll have meetings with some government ministers when we submit it now, when the process of submission is on at the moment.
Right. Thank you.
And I mean, just the last speaker, I think there should be. I mean, it's just even if the headquarters is in Dublin, the further east there may be. Thomas, is your original thing was to have a maybe a second centre in Venice, but even
Yes, I should. Yeah, yeah.
further east would be quite a good idea as well. And the further east, maybe the better. And I mean,
I think. Yeah.
the space agency is still connected very much with Russia because again, it's one of the only. What's the the space station still has
Yeah, the
Russian.
International Space Station.
Yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
still has cooperation between Russia and America, and Europe, which is very good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. We can grumble about certain things about Russia, but they're very good at space science. So, and they're actually, I mean, I think they're quite good at peace science. I have friends with the Russian intellectual philosophical community, and they love peace studies. This would give them something to really think about. I hope they would join this as an associate member. They're not a full member of the European Space Agency, so they wouldn't be invited as a full member, but they can like earn membership. And can I just ask you, Sean, just that thing in your constitution? Do you know when it was written and who by? Who put that in there?
Yes, it's quite an interest. It was written in 1937, which is very unusual because most issues about peace came after the Second World War. But I think it was probably a historical leftover of the Civil War in Ireland, and people have learned a very hard lesson because it was a very short but very bitter war. And I think the politicians who survived it then valued the idea of peace. You know,
Yeah,
so for 37, which is very early for a constitution to have those clauses in, and
yeah.
they've stayed in.
I wonder if anyone's written a history of it. Somebody's probably done a PhD at Trinity on that constitutional clause, and if not,
I,
they should do.
Yes, I was in touch, and I just can't remember his name, but a scholar in Japan who was doing a PhD or working in that area on constitutions, on peace constitutions a few years ago, but I never
Ah,
heard back, so I'm not sure how far he's got. But he was collecting constitutions from around the world that had
because
some.
Japan has a similar clause, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Japan
yeah.
has something.
Well, they did have, yeah.
Yeah, don't know if
Well,
there's
no,
specific.
it's still there.
Yeah.
Um, Article 9.
Yes,
But that
Article
was
9, that's
written
right.
by
Which prevents
um,
them from doing aggressive war and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
yes, but that was written by
The
um,
Americans.
the Americans, young Americans who never thought it would last. I
Okay.
might add, you know, I mean,
Oh well, it's lasted.
there's a Japanese right-wing scholar who's researched this to some extent, and he says that most of the people who actually wrote that constitution, some 50 years afterwards, were very surprised that it was still there.
Ah,
And actually, the Japanese, the current government wants to change the constitution.
ah,
There are pressures for this,
oh dear.
obviously coming from China. And so they want to double their defense budget. And so,
Gosh, okay. Well, no, that's
mm,
we'll put that on the desk of the European Peace Agency. But I think research into constitutions and peace is very
yes, yes,
interesting.
yes, yes.
Can I ask Michael to join the conversation? You've been very patient, madam. I apologise for the long delay. How does things look from the Spanish perspective here? You'll have to unmute, madam. You've gone back to mute.
Yes, yes. It was to avoid having any interruption or any
Sure.
noise in the conversation. Actually, I'm not Spanish. I'm Dutch,
Ah,
but I've been living in Spain for 35 years now. So I'm practically more Spanish than Dutch. But my roots are in Holland, and I still have my Dutch passport. So I still am that from there. But my husband and my children they are Spanish. Actually, I think it's interesting to know where to base it, but I think it is more interesting to start talking about the people that will integrate this kind of peace body, as I would see it now,
yeah.
and it would be for the European Union. So I would imagine that it would work like an EU commission, like the commissions from the European Parliament at present.
Not exactly, because the European Space Agency isn't part of the European Union's architecture, nor would the European Peace Agency be.
Oh,
But,
okay.
and this
Yes,
is
and
an interesting bit.
the commissions are usually made by MEPs.
Yeah, no, this wouldn't. It would be separate legally from the EU, but, and this is the interesting thing, the European Space Agency gets at least 30% of its budget from the EU. Thank you very much. So I'm hoping the European Peace Agency, if we pitch it right, will be able to go to the European Union and say, hey, we're doing the work you should have been doing for you. We're creating a European Peace Agency. But I think the reason it should be separate from the EU is because the European Union has become, I don't know how to put this politely, but it's become almost like too much of a hot potato politically. It's polarized European opinion. People are anti-EU and pro-EU and so on. I'm very much pro-EU. But, with a certain reservations. I don't want a sort of European superstate with et cetera, et cetera. So that's why I think the European Space Agency is a good model to go down. So it's having the best of both worlds. It's funded partly by the EU, supported by all EU countries, I hope. Maybe Hungary wouldn't like it, but like even Hungary wants peace, doesn't it? So anyway, does that answer the... Sorry, I cut you off. Carry on with what you're saying.
Yes, no, but I don't know. It's because from the liberal parties in Europe, the ALDE,
Yeah.
we've been because I've become a member from the Liberal Party in Spain in 2020. Before that, I was only dedicating to my work and my family, and not very too much bothered about the politician. Did the voting, of course. I voted, but was too busy with my own life
Sure.
to bother until I got fed up about the Spanish politicians, and then so instead of complaining, I decided to become a member from the Liberal Party because they stand more for and that's for me what a Liberal Party is. It stand for the interesting and the problems from the common people, the people from the street, where the common European politicians they have turned into professional politicians and they made a habit. It's been a habit, become a habit for them to live from public money, which is our tax money. So the liberals, to my opinion, they are the ones that concern most about the common problems from the people. Like now, there's a lot of problems with the housing, with the inflation, the fear from the people, the insecurity. And in 2022, I had the honor to participate in tables of debating tables in Brussels, in Strasbourg. I went to Strasbourg, and that was through the liberal parties, and we debated and gave our opinions from this. I'm a normal civil person. But could bring ideas and for solutions about the continent, about the environment problems, to have a stronger EU in the world, and human rights. We had the opportunity to give our ideas. And that is, for me, typical from the liberal parties, that they listen to the people from the streets, not like the conservatives who are the higher politicians. They haven't done anything else in their life. They haven't worked. They've been a politician all their lives. So I think that's where the people are present in Europe. And don't know about the USA, but in Europe, I think they're most fed up about that.
No, I agree 100%. Yeah. And Strasbourg is a good venue. We could always have a meeting for the European Peace Agency. I mean, it would have to have links with the European Parliament.
I
And
think it. I think it's.
get
I
MEPs
think
to
the
back it.
European Parliament, EU would be interested, but being apart from the EU institutions,
Yeah, I think it's a good
which would
idea.
be the proper thing as well. I'm not totally agree with you that we don't want an EU to be a big power, but I think that's what we are, and I think that's where we have to go to. The EU will have to be stronger as it is a present. It will have to be have to take care of itself, not depend on any energy from abroad, not depend on electronical chips for the cars, and even less depend on our food supply. We have to support more the farmers, more the producers. We can't depend on China, on India, on Russia, America to supply our food.
Sure, sure. Well, fortunately, we have a good agricultural sector in most European countries, especially here in France.
They are suffering a lot. They are
Yeah,
suffering a lot.
yeah,
Suffering too much because of the latest 15 years of policy, especially since 2015, when Mr. Timmermans, the Dutch socialist, which is more a communist than a socialist, was the commissioner from agriculture politician, European politician,
yeah.
and that he has destroyed many product producers in France, Holland, uh, with making more taxes, limiting the activity, higher taxes. That's how he destroyed them, and that's how he destroyed them.
Okay. Well, I'm not an expert in that field, but
No,
I'll
me neither, but that's
you
just
know
my personal
hats
opinion.
off. Yeah. Okay.
I'm
No,
not saying it's
genuinely,
all true, but that's my personal opinion. That's what I've been observing and
sure.
seeing.
Okay, so I just want to pick up on one thing that was a comment that was made earlier about Venice. I didn't respond fully. So, and also to welcome our new guest, Katharina. If you want to introduce yourself in a minute, let me just say this thing about Venice. So the original plan for the European Union mediation service at the time when I thought it would be a European Union project. But that was before Brexit and the crazy people in my country started all, you know, getting in a tizzy about the European Union. So I thought that should be based in Venice because Venice is like a window on the Orient. It's a global city. It's a masterpiece of culture and the arts. It's a beautiful place. And for 500, 600 years, it sent merchants all over the world. And when I walked around the Doge's Palace, I was blown away by the maps. If you've been to Venice, go around the Doge's Palace. It had maps of every single part of the world in detail on the walls, from Newfoundland, Canada, where it had merchants going, all the way to the Caspian Sea, to China, to India. You know, Venice ruled the world, in terms of trade and merchants for like 500 years. And I thought, if that one little city could do that, why can't we at least do the same with peace? Now, so that's where the idea came from, and I thought it should be based in Venice. Now, I think, therefore, that what the European Peace Agency should do, have its main base in Dublin for the sort of the main stuff, but I think it should have a subsidiary headquarters, office, whatever you want to call it, in Venice to deal with peace through arts. The arts are very important for peace building: music, poetry, dance, literature, and Venice is a home for the arts. It's a world famous place, cinema, all the arts. And I'm also chair of the International Delphic Academy. We run a thing called the Delphic Games, and that was like the Olympic Games were in the ancient world. There was also Delphic Games, which was for the arts, culture, performance, and we've revived it. And that's what Europe does at its best. It does the arts. And the arts are the best way to heal. I've been to theatre performances in Moscow. I've seen theatre used as a conflict resolution tool in Latin American states, having meltdown between right and left. The arts speak to a place that transcends conflict, because those conflicts come from ego mind. You know, I'm different to you, I hate you, you're different to me. And they can never be resolved at that level of thinking. As Einstein said, you can't solve conflicts at the level they come from. And this is where we have to go to a higher level. And that's what the Venice Centre for the Arts and Peace Building would be about. And it would support artists all over Europe to take those skills. They're being developed in poetry and music. I mean, music is a tremendous language that heals. That's why it's been used all over the world. The great musicians of the world, they all loved peace and they put it into their music. So it would sponsor orchestras. You know, there's a Palestine orchestra, for God's sake, dedicated to peacemaking. Why aren't they doing concerts with their Israeli equivalent? Why aren't we hearing the good message of the arts for peace? So that would be done under the European Peace Agency, but from Venice. That's the vision. But of course, there would be centres in every European country. This budget, 7 billion a year, is enough to have a centre in Denmark, one in Norway, one in Holland, Moldova, every other country in Europe that wants, Georgia as well. Katharina and I were just at a meeting of the project to get peace ministries in every country. Katharina, do you want to introduce yourself? Nice to see you. Hello.
Thank you very much. I'm going to open my camera, but I'm speaking to you all from my bed because I broke my leg, my ankle.
Yes.
So I might look a little bit messy. I hope you don't mind.
No, we can cope. No, we can cope.
Let me see. Am I there?
Yeah, we can see
so.
you. Hello.
Yeah, my little kitten. I just have a new kitten, Simba, and she just slipped out of the door in the morning. And I was like, oh my goodness. And I was just, trying to jump at her. And then I thought the underground was solid, but it was not. There was some mud and some, moist. And then I slipped and I broke it. Well, first time in my life, but I think I recover quite well. So everything is in order.
You're joining us from The Hague, is that right? Are you in Holland?
No, I live in the north. I used to work in. I used to live in the Hague. Yes, but I travel all over the city or all over the country, for my work.
So where are you joining us from?
From the north, the Heerenveen. I don't know, Mireille,
No, Groningen.
The skating city. It's a very famous skating city. So, thank you for inviting me, Thomas. I was very interested in what you just sent to me about your European Peace Agency. I have been a peace ambassador for many, many years now. I have been international secretary of the Dutch peace movement. I am ambassador for peace for Uniting for Peace in England and also executive committee member. I have been honorably appointed as international peace leader by the International Peace Leaders Institute. I am an ambassador for global compassion in Cameroon. I am ambassador for the city of Amsterdam, officially by a council, confirmation by the council of the city that Amsterdam is an international city of peace, and this is a part of the international cities of peace of Fred Arment in the United States. So I have been active for peace many times. I'm always busy working, looking for opportunities to see how we can do something to make the world better, to create more facilities, opportunities in my direct space, maybe on micro level or meso or on a higher level, so international level. So where I can, I try to join and try to speak with people, try to, expand my thinking, interact with people, and see how we can just create more insights on what exactly is happening on this planet Earth, why the things are just happening the way they're going on at this moment. Because we have been, I think all of you now have been in such a stage right now that we can see that things are staged, things are organized, and they are organized very well. and this is done by some entities or groups of people, and they control. And I would like to see how we can just see, because we don't see it, but it's there. And I would like to find out how we can get a finger on that, so we can steer the world into the right direction, because we have all sources, all resources for the world to make all people able to have a nice life with all abundance that our planet Earth has for us in common. It's there for us, and we should be all able to care for each other, to share, and to love and protect our human family. And I would like to share and interact in an open way, authentically, about how you think about this situation, because more and more I have been studying and I am studying this. I study things, conspiracy theories, whatever you call it, or whatever you want to call them. Is it what is right and what is not right? But I like to know the viewpoints of people from all over the world. I want to know how they think, how they feel, from which this perspective or from which culture they are. I just want to know how they think. And this is what I find important, to get a total view about how we should get our world back to us again.
Sure. No, that's really, thank you very much for all that. Did you read the European Peace Agency founding document? Did you?
I have been looking into it. Yes, I haven't. I have to do it again a couple of times, because it was quite big and complex. I think it is very nice, and it's like a similar idea as Vijay Mehta has from Uniting for Peace. The chair, he wants have governments with departments of peace all over the world. Yes. You would like to have a European peace agency all over the world.
They're parallel projects, not exactly the same, but
yes. But
no, thank you very much.
In large, yes.
Can I just respond to your heartfelt introduction? I mean, I'm not so much a conspiracy theorist as a conspiracy historian. My PhD is in history, and I'm a professional historian. Well, I can assure you there are conspiracies in history. In fact, most events in history are the result of some kind of conspiracy, and some of them are good, light workers doing good stuff. Think of the apostles of Christ doing their thing, or the early disciples of Muhammad when they were all being beaten up, and the first disciples of Buddha when his cousin Devadatta was trying to kill him. You know, the good conspiracies are the ones that succeeded by just wisdom. I mean, I'm a Druid in the British Isles context, an island, and we we never did violence. The Druids are forbidden to use violence, but we did thinking and intellectual work and history. We were the keepers of knowledge. And so I think the European Space Agency, as I said, I think you weren't here at the time, but I explained that it would have a very strong research wing. And I think that it would have to look into all this stuff, because one of the things it would have to do is deal with all the cyber warfare that's going on at the moment. Mm-hmm. So we're into a new type of warfare in Europe. My Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary, Yvette Cooper, just gave a speech today or yesterday, and she announced that every day in Britain there are 21,000 attacks. 21,000 attacks on our websites and on our government structures. Attacks from foreign countries, a lot of them coming from Russia, but also China and other countries, who are malevolently trying to break the backbone or the fabric that keeps modern society together. So they're hacking into websites, government, like NHS, banks, big shops, etc. And that's 21,000 a day. Like, this is mind-boggling, and this is a new form of warfare, right? Now, and those are actual just direct attacks trying to break up stuff. There's also cyber misinformation and disinformation being disseminated as a geopolitical psyops thing that's going on. And again, these are millions of attacks that are going on all over European countries. Now, I'm not breaking confidences by saying that we heard a speech, the Liberal Democrats of France, by a very brilliant young British Liberal Democrat MP called Dr. Al Pinkerton, who up until recently was an academic. He was invited to this meeting. I'm sad he hasn't had the time to come, but then he presented a members' rule bill in Parliament yesterday, which was voted on, and it's actually got through. It was a tied vote, and it had the Speaker of Parliament voting for it, which is to reinvestigate whether Britain should become a member of the customs union, which is sort of a step towards rejoining the EU. I believe strongly, and I did say this a bit in my introduction, that the Brexit vote was won by foreign interference in British democracy through hostile states trying to break up Britain and take us out of the EU. Now, those are facts. They're not conspiracy theory. These are actual facts. What's so frustrating is that facts are often treated as like, well, that's just your opinion. No, I'm a historian. These are actual historical facts. That's how Brexit was won, right? So what we need to do, and what Al is working with me, is create a counter-narrative, which is about unity, about peace, about actually, we shouldn't be wasting money in the billions on warfare. We should be at least spending some of it on peace fare, which is what the European Peace Agency is about. And he loved the idea when I shared it with him. But what he did share, and this is interesting, is there's a regiment in the UK which he visited, because he has got the portfolio of visiting some army type personnel. He was there recently. There's a building in England, I won't say where, which houses a regiment whose full-time main job is to counter Russian attacks on the British infrastructure. And these are thousands of attacks coming every day. And so these are like the new type of warrior. They're on computer screens doing their stuff. The European Peace Agency would have to somehow diffuse all that. We've got to stop doing this to each other. We shouldn't be doing it to Russia. Russia shouldn't be doing it back to us, or China. And I wrote the first ever cyber peace treaty. I proposed a text back in 2017 in Hyderabad through the World Intellectual Forum that the nations of the world should now create a new kind of peace treaty that outlaws cyber warfare, and that each government should sign up and say, okay, we won't do that anymore. We'll stop. And one of the first jobs the European Peace Agency would have, and it's a big job, would be to negotiate that for all nations. Like, stop doing this. It's why are our brightest internet geeks attacking each other with false information and trying to destroy, each other's structures? So those are huge issues, and they would need addressing by the European Peace Agency, definitely. Tell us, Katharina, tell us about in the Netherlands, what's the Liberal Party doing in government? Is there one in government at the moment? Is it in a coalition? Because didn't the hard right lose or something? Tell us about the current government in Holland and whether we can have communication with them. What do you think of them?
To be honest, I am not so into politics anymore.
Right. Party politics.
They're busy now forming a government, and I haven't been really following it up till now. But of course, if you want to approach the government with questions, we can always do that. Why not?
Sure. Yeah, I think I mean the Dutch are a tiny little country, but you're quite a soft power intellectually.
Yes, exactly.
If we could get the Dutch, and you have a long tradition of peace. The first philosopher I really fell in love with was Spinoza.
Yes.
who inspired me, and he said, "Peace is a strength of heart." That was his great saying when I founded Philosophers for Peace back in 1984.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, he's one of my heroes intellectually. So we'd love to have Holland support a project of the European Peace.
Yes.
You know, and I think, by the way, I just want to say, I think philosophers are important to this mix.
Yes.
Every country in Europe has a tradition of philosophy, and they should be coming together.
Yes.
You know, and finding in their traditions, their texts, what were their greatest thinkers for peace, going back over the centuries. Okay, any other comments or anything else people want to add? We've got a few minutes left. I've got one. I want to ask you some questions. So if we say, yeah, this is a good idea, let's do it. So the question is, well, how? I mean, Sean's presented one strategy, which is to get it on the table of the Irish government, which is going to become the president of the Council of Europe, and will be able to put it before the European nations, right? When was the deadline for that, Sean? Did you meet the deadline?
We did. The deadline is it's Friday the 12th. It's the day after tomorrow. There was a problem with the portal because they don't like taking attachments. So we had to get onto the government department to say we are sending an attachment. So they came back and said, fine, they will open the attachment. It's a safe one because the attachment is exactly your document, you know.
Yes.
But we gave a covering letter. So we are...
You got it through.
Yeah, we put it's within the deadline, all right. And again, I mean, it's just on the table. Hopefully, if we were lucky, there is a kind of a feeling within Fianna Fáil that this could be, that's the main political party in Ireland, this could be a thing they could get benefit out of in opposition to other parties in Ireland. It's as cynical as that, but it may work. We may just be lucky to be in the right place at the right time. So they could.
Well, I trust the gods to arrange the details. You know.
Yes, but that's only one approach. So maybe what were you going to say about the other approaches?
Well, okay, so that's the question really. What else can we do? I mean, here in Britain. I mean, I'm still a British citizen and passport holder and go there often, and my family still live there. Could we approach the Labour Party to adopt it? I've met people that worked with the Foreign Ministry in Britain. David Lammy, he's no longer the Foreign Secretary, but Yvette Cooper is. I think if we wrote to Yvette Cooper and said, look, here's a project, we want you to back it, it seems to me this might be good because you know, the Labour Party is jumping up and down about defending Ukraine and stopping Russia and all that, but apart from mere militarism, they don't have anywhere else. They haven't thought of the fact that actually to stop conflicts, the best way is diplomacy. It's actual peacemaking skills. You see, the chap I founded Philosophers of Peace with back in the 80s, John Francis Phipps, he was the son of Sir Eric Phipps, who was the British ambassador to Germany in the 1930s. So at the time when that constitution was being written, Sean, in Ireland, Sir Eric Phipps was our man in Berlin, trying to stop World War II. And his son was one of my closest friends. We founded Philosophers of Peace together. And I think there's not enough, you know, real diplomacy going on anymore. And my argument against what's happened is that we've got these amateur politicians like Trump who don't know the first thing about diplomacy. And yet they think they can make peace. So that's why the European Peace Agency is to give it back to the people with actual knowledge, I think. So anyway, maybe I'll send it to Yvette Cooper and see what happens. How about the European movement? Is anyone else a member of that here? Do you know about the European movement? Anyone? It's led by Mike Galsworthy, a scientist, a very strong opponent of Brexit like me. It's got a few 100,000 members. It's active in many European countries. If we could get the European Peace Agency adopted as a project by them, they could get it out in every European country among some of the most active young people. There's a youth group for this. Very clever people. So that's another thing we can do. What about Aldi? Now, our Spanish friend, who's not with us anymore, she talked about, it's called the Alliance of Liberal Democrats in Europe, Aldi. And all these European Liberal Democrat parties are members of this. It's like a federal body. I'd like to get the European Peace Agency put on the table of Aldi for discussion. They must have like business meetings where they all get together. They could look at it and say, yeah, that's a good idea, we'll support this. If Aldi would embrace it, then it would get on the table of all these, like in 15 countries in Europe. There's now a member party of Aldi, which is part of the government, including Ireland, Holland, I think, etc. What else can we do? I mean, Northern Ireland is another thing. They have an alliance party in Northern Ireland, which I believe is in coalition in the government, I think. And they're a member of the Liberal Democrats International. Could we get it to the alliance? Sean, could you send it to them? I mean, write to them as a fellow member of the Irish people.
Yes, Thomas, that's a good idea, because I have a contact up in Belfast and I never even thought of that, so I will follow that up.
Let's get that up there and say that we're trying to get this done. And if the Northern Ireland government would support, if the Republic do promote this, then the Northern Irish government could say, yeah, well, we're here too. We like this idea. That would be great. Lord Alderdice, who was one of the key people behind the Good Friday Agreement and is a member of the House of Lords, he is a professor at Oxford University and he's a peace thinker. I invited him, I've sent him the document, I invited him to come, he's not come. I'm hoping that he might give the lecture next term for the Lib Dem Philosophy Forum. I'll keep at him. Have you come across his work, Sean? Lord Alderdice, he's called. He was a strong member of the Alliance Party up north. So, have you ever heard of him or?
Oh yes, Thomas. Sorry, I was just looking at my yes. So he would. I know certain of him, but I wouldn't know him personally now. But I have that contact in Belfast with the Alliance Party. All right.
Well, tell them that we're going to try and get Lord Alderdice to speak to this forum, because he's given huge amounts of thought to peacemaking.
Oh, yeah.
I think he should support this project, the European Peace Agency. He could, what we need is a sort of board of immortals to back it. The people that created the Good Friday Agreement and all the other peace work that's happened. Because Ireland is a kind of success story when it comes to peace. Fingers crossed. And we should, be... Although I have to say there was an article in The Guardian today which was shocking about an MI5 guy that infiltrated the IRA up north and used to kill people, to keep his cover. He was killing Catholics. He was killing Protestants, that's right. And now he's called Steak Knife. It's all just come out. Shocking. He killed more people than lives he saved, and yet the British government covered it up until recently. And then there was an inquiry which cost £47 million, a legal inquiry, which found him guilty, but he's dead. I mean, look, you couldn't make this stuff up. I mean, for 47 million quid, if somebody gave the European Peace Agency 47 million quid, we could bring peace in Europe. I'm convinced of it. But of course they don't, I'm just saying. So I don't agree with using violence. That's why I've refused to ever join the intelligence services. My students used to say, Thomas, you must be in the intelligence services. I say, no, I won't join them because they all use violence. I'm a man of non-violence. But I work for the intelligence services of the Kingdom of God. That's what I would say to them. Which I think is, it's not quite come yet. So, what about in the Middle East? Mazin, you've been quiet listening. Can we get this idea to the Palestinian community? Do you know anyone in the Palestinian Authority that we can run this to?
So I wasn't listening. Get what idea?
To the European Peace Agency project. Who are your great? I mean, who are your peace thinkers in Palestine now? I mean, not obviously not Hamas. They went the wrong route.
Well, I mean, if you want my thoughts about peace without justice doesn't mean anything. It's pacification. And so the only way to peace is to challenge oppression, challenge colonialism, and do it in methods that are now very well studied in decolonial theory and practice, basically. And this is what needs to be done. And that's what the original PLO charter was about, bringing about peace via liberation. So this is our anti-colonial definitions of peace is related to that. It is
Sure.
Following what Frantz Fanon describes in The Wretched of the Earth, and people like that, which speak about how people can liberate themselves. And it's the methods that have been used successfully in some situations, like the civil rights movement, like South Africa, liberation from formal apartheid, and many
How
others.
can we do it in the Middle East? How can we do it in Israel? How can we get that thinking? It's there in Palestine, but how can we replace the current colonial settler kind of consciousness with that kind of thinking? That's the challenge we're facing.
Yeah, you start by truth telling, of course, and speaking based on logic and based on documented information, and you build allies. So then you join struggle. I was arrested and detained about a dozen times here. Half the times I was detained or arrested was with Israeli Jews who are working with me in joint struggle to stop Israel from bulldozing 2,000-year-old olive trees or demolishing homes and things like that. So you need joint struggle towards liberation, and of course, using in our preferences for the non-violent, or I should say non-armed methods, but we use the term popular resistance here, which includes hundreds of forms of resistance, from boycott, divestment, sanctions, to media work, to demonstrations, to civil disobedience, to protests, to petitions, to all these things that are critical for the joint struggle towards liberation, and that will free the Zionists, Jews who are believers in Zionism, free them from that pathology of Zionism, of supremacism, of racism, and of chosenness, and bring them around to positions of understanding our common humanity, and to end the ongoing genocide. It has to be done with pressure. I'm sorry to say this. It cannot be done with simple dialogue or a few words here and there. Peacemaking is not about normalizing occupation or pacification, or sitting together and drinking tea and eating hummus and saying everything is kumbaya. No, it takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy, and a lot of pain, and you have to pay a price for it. If you're not paying a price for it, and you're sitting comfortable in a warm apartment somewhere and pontificating about what Palestinians and Israelis should do, then it doesn't help. You have to come and join the struggle. And we have internationals and Israelis who come and join the struggle, and they do pay a price, but of course not as big a price as we, the Palestinians, pay. I mean, you have 2 million Palestinians now in tents, basically, in Gaza, being flooded and cold and miserable and no food. And that's a very, very heavy price for freedom. But they keep going on.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for those wise words. That's another reason to put the European Peace Agency in Ireland, which has its own history of anti-colonial struggle. It's sensitive to all these issues, and why it shouldn't be in London, which is the epicenter of world imperial building. But I resonate deeply with what you've said, Mazin, because to me, peace is about the struggle for truth. You said that, and to me, it's finding a common truth in the conflicting narratives. And you said wisely at the end that it's shifting people from their current perspective, which is my narrative gives me the right to kill you and massacre you and shoot you because, hey, I'm whatever, fill in the missing bit, to no, actually, we need to find our common narrative, build common truths together where we change the narrative line, we change the storyline. Yes, Ferguson, your hand is up, sir.
I want to just say goodbye because I really have to go, but thank you for this conversation.
Well, at the moment, we're just in the seedbed of it. Think of it like gardeners. We're planting a seed called the European Peace Agency. We hope it'll bear fruit. And thank you for coming. Give my love to Bethlehem. Yeah.
Thank you.
Especially at Christmas. Right, Ferguson.
Yes. Now, forgive me for being a bit obtuse, but you've got this forum, right?
Yeah.
You've had your opening meeting.
Well, it's a reopening. We used to meet in Parliament, but yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it's a reopening of the Lib Dem Philosophy Forum, yeah.
Oh, reopening.
Yeah.
I used to run a thing called VTT, which is also in the Lib Dems, and we were talking about. I was talking about defining Europe, what it is to us, and so on and so forth. That was some years back.
What did VCT stand for?
Virtual think tank.
Okay.
It was not intended to be the name, but it just occurred to me, and people sort of took to it. But what I noticed in the past in this kind of thing is that you can have meetings. I used to prepare papers for these meetings, and they were supposed to be discussed. But in fact, largely they were not discussed. They were just repetition. People just repeated more or less what they said in every other meeting. Huh? And I think that, well, I don't know if you have an idea of every month or what your timing would be, etc.
Every term. So the next one will be the spring term. Yeah.
It's a long way away.
3 a year. But obviously we could do more if momentum builds, and if we get, say, this project becomes very live, we can do it more often.
So what if you get say, a reply from one of these governments or something like that?
Yeah, then we would have special meetings, in between.
Yeah.
But a formal meeting once a term to report back. Yeah.
Okay. We don't actually sort of set themes that we can discuss, or.
Well, no, I think the point of this meeting was to discuss peace, and particularly the European Peace Agency.
Yeah.
We'll see who wants to give the talk next month. Next term. If I can get Lord Alderdice, then he could talk about peacemaking in his experience. We'll see. I'm open to suggestions. If you know people that want to come forward. I've got a question for you because we're coming up to the end of our meeting. Does anyone want to volunteer with stuff? I mean, writing letters would be helpful, making phone calls. I've got, I will do what I can, but if anyone wants to take some of this project with them, you're welcome to contact me, or say, Sean's agreed to do a couple of things.
Yeah.
That's great. If anyone else wants to come forward, there's lots to do. Like, we need volunteers who can write letters, call people, do social media stuff, do bits of research. I'd like to get some liaison with some scientific people to liaise with the European Space Agency, because we need to get some inroads there. I want them to know about this project and say, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll help. Katharina.
Well, maybe I haven't looked into the whole document. I've read it globally. I thought it looked very nice, and I'm great at great. I can do social media, so maybe I can help you a bit with that. Make a platform on in LinkedIn or Instagram.
Yeah, we could work on that together, because at some point the European Peace Agency will have to have all that presence, social media stuff. But it's a question of timing. Do we create stuff now already, or do we wait till we get further on and get some formal acceptance and keep it a bit under the radar? And then we're going to need some legal minds to give advice on, for instance, drafting the treaty, because the European Space Agency was created by some brilliant lawyers got together and wrote out a 20-page treaty, I think it's called, founding treaty, which then the governments of the 26 founding countries signed. And that all would have to be done, the equivalent, which could be modelled on the European Space Agency, but just reworded a bit, is how I'm thinking. So if anyone knows any lawyers who've got spare time and want to give some thought on that front, because it would be good if we have more documentation we can give people. And then I'm thinking also we might do a meeting in, somebody mentioned the Strasbourg European Parliament. We might have a meeting there, but we could also have meetings in the UK Parliament through MPs who would sponsor a meeting. I was just in the UK Parliament for a meeting on peace and non-violence, sponsored by the Jain community, and I did 30 meetings in Parliament. It's a good venue because it's very central. So at some point we could have a meeting there, or the Dublin Parliament. What's it called, your Parliament in Dublin, Sean?
It's called
the Dáil, is it?
The Dáil, yes. DAIL, the Dáil, yes.
Yeah. What does that mean in Gaelic?
It means gathering. That sort of. But certainly we should, at some stage, we could look at having a meeting there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. Let's have a final go round. So, Claire, any last thoughts? Any last reactions?
I don't know if I have anything constructive to say. I've been sort of deconstructing some of the meeting, which is my kind of habit, like looking for things. But that's perhaps a different type of conversation. I don't really know people in this sphere, at least not that I can think of right now, but it is midnight 30.
Is it? In Delhi?
For me,
Gosh.
Yeah.
I would just add one thing about ecology. One of the important research areas is the link between ecological well-being and peace. The military uses a huge budget that should be going into ecological work, reforestation. Yes. I'm disturbed at what you said about the air quality in Delhi. So there is, any links you can make with Greens in India on your journey. I know that you didn't come. Did you come? No, you didn't come to the last EDA meeting, the International Delphic Academy. We had
No, it was
Stefania.
probably when I was asleep or something. I mean, I'm constantly in a different time zone at the moment.
Okay, so we had someone there who'd been in Belém at the Brazil gathering for COP about the climate change issues, and they'd done an opera on, so it was about the arts for peace and
Well,
equality.
the thing is here, I've sort of just been taking it in. I mean, literally taking it in, but also by walking around and seeing so much plastic waste and just waste everywhere, and asking people, where's this coming from, and wondering to myself, why is this a priority that I just don't know about with the current Prime Minister, who apparently is a Trump fan, so probably not.
Shocking, Modi. Yes. Tick him off if you see him.
But yeah, so it's just really, it's so immediate here.
Yeah.
And people are just functioning.
Are you going down to Jaipur? Are you going to go and see the colleagues in Jaipur?
Yes.
You've booked to see Gulab and...
Yes, I CC'd you on the email.
Okay. Good. Well, give them my love. And Jaipur is a much more sorted place than Delhi. You'll find...
Well, so they have an air quality... I've got an air quality app on my phone. And here, it's good, which means it's this color. And that's the number for that is 160 for today. And then when I go to Ahmedabad tomorrow, it's about 260, I think.
Which is worse.
And then, or 300. I mean, or even 400. I mean, it's a horrendous number. And then when I go to Jaipur, it's green, right? So Jaipur is much clearer. But it's such a huge consideration in terms of getting a different approach. And because we have a global economy, we have to have global, you can't claim as a multicultural globe to have a global economy if you don't also recognize the need for global behaviors around how to help countries grow if they want to grow, like India and China. But if we can't encourage them to grow using fossil fuels, which we obviously can't, because I'm living in the consequences of it, even for a few days, then how to get people to recognize the need to give equal measure to global environmental measurements.
Yeah.
You literally cannot have one. You can't acknowledge
we have to grow the green energy
area and not in the other. So to me, that feels particularly urgent because it affects the global economy, because it's talking about quality of life and health that's not preventative, but is in fact trying to restore health, is very expensive for an economy.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes a GDP look good because money's being spent, right? But it's not actually good in terms of a healthy, sustainable, regenerative situation. So I think there are arguments, even if people had no moral compass whatsoever, I think there are many tangible numerical arguments for putting the environment first. But people do say this, people who are paying attention say that you've got to have social justice, ecological justice, equity could be another word for justice, as well as economic. Like there has to be equity and sure. Equity of attention on all three areas in order for something sustainable to emerge.
Yeah. No, very much so.
If only there was more of a moral compass, that would make it so much easier, because then there'd be the drive for it. But we have to make an argument for the financial drive for it at the moment, because the types of people who are benefiting from how it is,
well,
they're the ones who they're holding the rudder. They're holding the rudder at least they're giving the impression, they're being given the impression they're holding the rudder. I think if the whole world went on strike, then that would change quickly. But then how do you get the whole world to go on strike? So there's a lot of organizing that needs to happen.
Well, a Greek theatre guy wrote a play where the women went on strike. If they all just refused to make love, that would change everything. That was done in Lysistrata.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. So, yes, very important point. Then we'll come to Katharina going round. That the EU is very good at green stuff, and it's promoted a lot green energy and ending fossil fuel dependence. And it's one of the things it's good at, which is why Trump hates the EU so much, because he's a spokesman for the fossil fuel industry along with his Saudi colleagues. But what I'm arguing is the EU, although it's brilliant at green stuff, needs to be as good at peace stuff. So the European Peace Agency has to make the link, saying, hey, you can't have a green planet, sustainable planet, and have the threat of war hanging over the nations. Because look at what's happening in Ukraine.
Alliance is one of the organisations that officially recognises the triangle.
The what one?
There are entities that officially recognise it.
That's what the European. Thank you. So the European Peace Agency, read the document, read the research. That's one of the fields it would be devoted to, is working with all those green groups around Europe in every country who are making the link with war and the prevention of war, because it's actually one thing, one cause. Katharina, your turn. Do share any thoughts.
Thank you so much for having me here, Thomas. And nice to have met you all. And well, I think it's a very interesting idea. And well, I would like to come back on it later. And well, I want to wish you everybody a great evening, because I really have to go now.
Sure. We're gonna shut. Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas, and let's keep in touch.
Yeah, next term we'll have another of these meetings. Yeah.
All right.
Ferguson, final thoughts from you, sir.
Yeah, I said most of them a few minutes ago, but just one correction from what I said earlier is that, of course, there is a liberal tradition in Japan, which is quite extensive. But it has very little to do with the Liberal Democratic Party.
Okay.
But I mean, for years, for example, the Japanese have not liked certain aspects of. They're more community-oriented than the Americans, and that means that they have different ideas as to how economies should be run. As for there is, of course, a green movement. The Japanese seem to follow what other people do. It's now so it would have to be analysed to see how much, in fact, what kind of depth there is in that, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But if it's of any interest, I'm a great believer. Well, having spent so much time translating, and thank God I've just escaped Cap GPT. I could look into Japanese stuff on this.
Okay.
On the I mean, my belief is that there's plenty of stuff in English. Of course, the Japanese produce that, but my belief is that it's better to read the language, because then you know what people are saying to each other.
Can you go on Japanese websites and read what they're saying and all that stuff?
Well, yes.
Yeah. Well, okay, so here's a mission. Find the 5 most important liberal, in the best sense of the word, intellectuals in Japan now, like philosophers or intellectuals, writers, whatever, and bring them to the next meeting, their names. And we'll contact them.
You would give me a long time to do that. Yeah, okay, right.
You've got till next spring. Yeah. And also, just to say, I'm an expert in Japanese religion, the Shinto faith.
Yes.
Japanese Buddhism. And
That you missed out Shinto in your.
yeah. Well, anyway, Shintoism is the original green movement of Japan. They love nature. Nature are the kami. That's the gods of trees and waterfalls and rivers. So I'd say they're the original Greens. They're like the Druids are in the Celtic world.
Yes.
The Shinto. So, we ought to get them involved. Right. Okay, Sean, last words to you, sir. Hello.
Well, listen, yes, thank you very much, Thomas, for the great idea of the European Space Agency, and hopefully this will be the start of. And it was great to hear from everyone around, and we'll be working on it from the Irish perspective anyway. And some of the ideas that came up today as well, there's contact to people in Northern Ireland and things. So that's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well, bless you, and thanks for all you do in Ireland. And okay, thanks to everyone. I will.
And it's nice to meet you, Sean, because we've had some email.
Claire, and yes.
Yes, you've been in touch, and I'm sure you have a warm welcome in Ireland any time you want to go.
That would be nice.
Yeah, and we'll get this, if we get the European Peace Agency in Dublin, then you could have a job in the office in Venice, maybe.
I need a job, Christ alive.
Let's get it going in Venice. Yeah. Okay, blessings to everyone.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay.
Bye.
Salam.